How would you like it if Dart had data classes and sealed classes just as we know them from Kotlin? It would be perfect, but while these features are being worked on by the official Dart team, they are still in the distant future. Now we have the next best thing though. We're all about to get freezed or frozen with the new package by Rémi Rousselet, the creator of Provider and also Flutter hooks. Hello, welcome to Reso Coder, where you are getting prepared for real app development so that you will get freelance clients or a job and be confident about the apps you build. So subscribe and hit the bell to join us on our quest for becoming in-demand Flutter developers. If you've been following the Dart's algebraic data type scene for a while, you may be wondering, like, we have sealed unions, we have super enum, we have sum types, so why do we need yet another package? And similarly, if you are an avid follower of the data class scene, you may know about build value, equatable, and there are even some certain VS Code extensions which provide simple functionality to generate code for data classes. So again, why do we need yet another package? Well, I could talk for quite some time about the insufficiencies of all of the individual packages. They are either too verbose, there is a lot of boilerplate, in other words, they are too restrictive, or they are just plain not cool to use. And that is in itself a very valid reason to switch to Freezed, because it has a succinct and elegant syntax and using it is really a breeze. But if you are still not convinced, think about it. We have separate packages for unions and we have separate packages for data class-like functionality. For example, you can use something like super enum for unions and then build value for data classes. So you have two packages for two things, right? But Freezed is a combined package, so to say. It provides elegant and nice syntax for both unions and data classes just from one import right here. And actually you are not even going to import it because it's just as a dev dependency. Freezed just generates code. There are no actual dependencies or import statements for Freezed inside your code base. So let's set up the project. We are going to demonstrate this Freezed package on a Dart console application, but also this of course works with Flutter. The main important thing we have in the pubspec YAML file, which you can, by the way, get from the link in the video description. And from that link, you can also get to the written tutorial, where you can also find all of the code written in this video, links to all of the libraries, and overall go through this lesson at your own pace. So whether you copy this pubspec.yaml file from the written tutorial or not, we have Freezed as a dev dependency. Build runner, of course, because we are going to be generating some code. And then we are also using JSON annotation and Json Serializable. These are not actually required by Freezed, but the cool thing about Freezed is that it is very tightly and nicely integrated with JSON Serializable. So even converting to and from JSON will be a breeze with Freezed. So that's why we are importing them. You don't actually need them if you don't want to convert to JSON. And lastly, we also have meta. This is something which is only needed in console application because the meta package is automatically imported if you are using Flutter. So you Flutter devs, you don't need to import meta at all. Once we have these dependencies and we have run the pub get command, let's get down to coding. At first, we are going to create a data class. If you are not familiar with what a data class is, it's simply a class which supports value equality. That is unlike with regular Dart's classes. So for example, if I create a class right here, and it has a field final int x, and of course we need to create a constructor for it. Actually, we can just assign it right here, it doesn't matter. So it's kind of obvious that instantiating some class here and checking if it is equal to another instance of some class It should be equal if there is value equality comparison, because the class still holds just x is equal to 1. Both of those instances hold the same value. But because Dart is utilizing reference equality by default, when we print this equality check, what's going to happen is that we're going to see false as the output. And that's not what we want with data classes, because data classes should have value equality. And of course, we can override the equals operator ourselves and do all kinds of crap, but why create all of that additional work when we can just use a package such as freezed? Also, data classes usually have a copy with method. And again, you can use something like the Dart data class extension, at least here in VS Code. You can use something like this and just hit Control and dot and generate copy with, generate equality. But again, it's just going to add a bunch of code into your regular file. So I think that's not the best option. So we are so far missing value equality, copy with for creating new instances with just minor field value changes. And then data classes should also possibly have a support for serialization. And as I said, freezed has a very nice support because it works nicely with Json Serializable. And I know that not all of you are Kotlin developers, but just in case you are, this is how you can create data classes in Kotlin. Of course, the syntax is not valid in Dart, but in Kotlin, it's literally a one-liner. We can have a data class user with a name field or property, because everything is a property in Kotlin. And then we also have an age property. And that's it. This has overridden toString method, copy with, it has value equality. All of that is right inside that data class, which is defined as just a single line. So can we get to something like this beautiful one-liner with Kotlin and freezed? Of course we can. Let's create a new file under lib. It's going to be called freezedclasses.dart. And inside of it, we are going to create an abstract class user. It's going to be mixed in with user. So underscore $ user is the name of the abstract class, which is going to be generated and also mixed in. As you know, you cannot really avoid boilerplate with code generation libraries, but I think this boilerplate is pretty minimal and straightforward, so it's a good trade-off, especially compared with the boilerplate which you would need if you were to implement all of the data class functionality manually. So once we have this abstract class user, the way we can create something similar to the Kotlin's data class, which has a name property and an age property, is to create a const factory user, and it's going to accept string name, int age, and it's going to be redirected to a generated constructor for underscore user class. So this is pretty much all the boilerplate we need. We of course need to mark it as immutable. This is actually how the freezed package recognizes for which class to generate an implementation. So let's import meta.dart. And additionally, we are also going to provide a part, because the generated file should be called freezedclasses.freezed.dart. You may be used to specifying G, but for freezed, you need to specify freezed.dart. Okay, so let's roll with this. We're going to open up the console, run our favorite command, flutter pub run build run a watch, and also don't forget to add delete conflicting outputs just to be safe. And there we go. we have just generated a freest.dart file with all of the implementation nicely there for us. And once we delete the, of course, invalid Kotlin class, we don't have any errors in our project. And let's hop into main.dart and let's utilize and instantiate this data class. So we can create a final user, which is going to be equal to user, and we can just instantiate it as usual. We are going to pass in string name and int h. So for example, maths and 20. Cool. Then it's immutable, so we cannot possibly, for example, reassign h. That's a good thing. We cannot reassign a getter. Then we can also use the copy with method. So final user2 is equal to user.copy with, and we can, for example, change the name from Matt to John. Awesome. So now we can, for example, print user and print user2. And it's not going to print us an instance of user as usual with Dart classes, but it is instead going to print us a nicely formatted string, because if we take a look at the generated file, even the toString method is overridden, and that's a nice thing to see. And lastly, if we just duplicate myself here, so we're gonna have two users which are holding the same values inside of them, and we print user is equal to user2, we are going to get true printed out. So that's also good. We have just implemented value equality with really just a few lines of code right here. So we have all of the things we came here for. And additionally, let me show you that you do not have to use only positional arguments here. You can also use optional arguments, something like this. And now you do not need to pass in h, but it's going to be null by default. And now actually when we run this code, it's going to print out false, because these two objects are no longer equal, even with value equality. And then you can also have a named optional argument. So when you do something like this, you have to specify it as h is 20, just as usual. Wow, this is really it for data classes. Before jumping onto unions, or otherwise known as sealed classes, let me also show you how you can work with Json Serializable in Freest. So let's just revert back to positional arguments right here. Working with Json Serializable is absolutely simple. All you need to do is to provide another part statement. This one will be .g.dart, because Json Serializable's code will be generated into a separate file from the Freest generated file. Then we just need to specify factory. And if you are used to Json Serializable, you know all of this stuff. This factory will be for user that from JSON. It's going to accept map string dynamic. Let's call it JSON, and we're going to have an arrow function instantiating user from JSON. Whoops. And passing the JSON. This is the standard boilerplate for Json Serializable. The difference is here that we don't actually need to specify the toJSON method ourselves, and we also do not need to annotate it with @JSON Serializable, although while we do not need to annotate it, we still need to import JSON annotation, because this JSON annotation import will be needed in the generated file. So just make sure that this JSON annotation is indeed imported in your manually written file. And now when we save this file, all of this stuff will get generated. We can see that now a new file popped up on the side, freezeclasses.g.dart, and there we have user from JSON and user to JSON, which is a nice thing to see. So what we can now do with really just a few lines of code is that we now have a data class with value equality, copy with method, all of that nice stuff together with JSON serialization. So what we can now do is that we can still have a user right here, Matt, age is 20. And now we can convert it to JSON. So final serialized is equal to user.toJSON. And as you can see, this will output map string dynamic. And then we can also deserialize it. So we can convert the serialized map using the factory user.fromJSON, which was generated by freezed. So we can just pass in the serialized map, and now we can actually print serialized and also deserialized. So let's take a look at all of this. We now have a plain regular data class. We then serialize it, and then we also deserialize it. So let's see the output. And indeed, we can see that we have printed out a map, the serialized JSON basically, and then also the deserialized user object. Everything works. And again, if you want to go through this lesson at your own pace, make sure to check out the written tutorial from the link in the video description. Now let's go on to unions, or otherwise known as sealed classes. So basically, if you are not yet convinced to introduce this freezed package just for having these amazingly simple and awesome data classes, I think that you are going to be convinced once you see the elegance with which unions can be created. Let's again take a look at the beautiful Kotlin's version of sealed classes, and then let's try to replicate this with Dart with this awesome freezed package. So I will just create a new file here, change the language to Kotlin just so we can see everything, and now I'm just going to copy a semi-valid Kotlin code right over here. So even if you are not familiar with Kotlin at all, you are gonna be able to understand what's going on here. So basically, sealed classes are just regular classes with some amazing features, like for example, exhaustive switch. We're going to get to implementing exhaustive switch in Dart later on in this tutorial, but basically exhaustive switch just doesn't let you to forget about a particular case. For example, you cannot forget about the subtract here. It would give you an error, right? This is called exhaustive switch, or in Kotlin, it's actually called a when expression. So in Kotlin, you can create sealed classes, which are either nested, like this, or you can have sealed classes which are not nested. And what's the difference? Well, with nested classes in Kotlin, you can only create the instance of add by specifying operation .add and pass in some sort of a value 1, 2, 3, right? This is with the nested sealed class. However, if you are using non-nested sealed class, you can instantiate individual cases directly. So you do not need to prefix it with operation, but you just specify add, and then when you use this instance inside a when expression, it still works. You cannot forget about subtract. If you do, you are still going to get an error. So how can we replicate something like this beautiful functionality of Kotlin in Dart? Well, of course, we can replicate it with freezed, and we can even replicate this sort of nesting of classes. Of course, Dart does not support nested classes at all, but with the help of the freeze package, we can sort of get around this issue. So let's get right to it. Inside the same file which holds our data class, we are also going to create a union. I'm just going to copy this user class, paste it below, and I'm going to change its name to be operation nested, because we want to replicate the code which you could see in Kotlin. Now replace all of the references of user with operation nested. We actually aren't going to be converting it to JSON or from JSON, although you can absolutely use Json serialization even with union types. We're just not going to do it in this quick tutorial. And once we have replaced all of the references of user with operation nested, we're going to make this operation accept an integer value. And also we're going to actually make it named. And of course, this should not be operation nested, but add. So what are we actually doing here? If you remember about the Kotlin code, which I should probably not have deleted, but whatever, basically, here we are creating a nested class, so to say, because this operation nested can be instantiated only by using this factory constructor add. The actual class add is package private, as you can see by this underscore before it. Cool. Let's just generate the code needed for this. And let me just quickly show you what I mean by package private, and that we can only use this add factory constructor from main.dart. So if I say operation nested dot add 1, this is valid code. But if I say add, there is no class called add, right? Kind of obvious. So this is, in other words, the thing which you would call a nested sealed class in Kotlin. You can only instantiate this instance of add by using the factory constructor and not the actual constructor of the class itself. But if we change this add class to not have an underscore, so it's going to be public, now we are going to be able to both use the factory constructor and also the actual just class constructor without any issues. Make sense? I hope so. So let's now delete all of this code and let's get back to the business of unions. Let's make this again back into a nested or sort of nested union by providing the underscore. And of course, this would not be a union if it did not have multiple case classes, if you're coming from Scala at least. So this will be subtract, subtracting a value still, subtract, save that so that it can get generated. And now what can we actually do with this kind of a union? Well, let's hop into main.dart and we are going to use it inside a function. I will just quickly copy and paste the function from the written tutorial, to which you can get from the link in the video description. This function is pretending to do something useful here. So we are performing an operation. We take an integer operand and an operation, which is going to be our union here. So the operation can be either add or subtract. And then we use the when expression, or in this case, a when method on the operation union, where we cannot just ignore something. We're going to get this squiggly line saying that the parameter subtract is required. And you can also promote this info message to be a fully blown error message. And to learn how to do that, how to use linting in Dart to keep your code base healthy, check out the tutorial from the card in the corner. But here it suffices that we just get an info message. We don't really care in this example simple app. Basically, when we are adding something, we're going to perform addition, of course. And when we are subtracting, we are going to say operand minus value and then return the result of this operation from this perform operation function. So now let's use this function. We are going to put its result into final result. It's going to be equal to perform operation. The operand will be, for example, 2, and then we are going to perform addition. So operation nested dot add. We want to add 2, and 2 plus 2 is of course 4. So printing this result should print out 4. Let's see if I am correct, if my math skills are not failing me. I hope not. And of course it's 4, so I did not forget math. I'm really glad for that. So we have just created operation nested, but of course we can also create the operation non-nested, and I will show you what that will mean for us. Maybe if I just rename this to operation, which will imply not nested. Awesome. So now we have just operation, and we are going to remove the underscores from add and subtract. So now these things are going to be able to be instantiated individually. What we can now do is hop into main.dart, change all references to operation nested to be just operation. And now we can still just instantiate operation.add2. That's still perfectly doable, and there is no issue with that, and it's still going to print out 4. But we can also instantiate just add2. Now it's possible, and running this is still going to result in a perfectly valid and manageable, maintainable, and readable code. So when would you need to have public case classes, and when would you rather have them be private? I think that when you are using the block library from Felix Angelov, then you may find it useful to have your case classes or your events and states, in the case of block, be public, so that you do not need to instantiate them by using the prefix of the union, but you can just instantiate them by calling add or subtract, or some sort of a name of the event or name of the state, respectively, if you are using something like block. It's really up to you. There is no clear winner here, but just know that you can also have nested sort of sealed classes and non-nested public case classes here. And really sorry, I'm jumping between the terminology of unions, sealed classes from Kotlin, and case classes from Scala. I'm all over the place now, but I hope you get the point. This is all cool and nice. We have just run through most of the stuff which is available in the Freest package, but there are still a bunch of more things to talk about. That's because up until now we have covered only the when method, which is mimicking the when expression from Kotlin, which is an exhaustive switch basically. But in addition to when, there is also maybe when. In the case of maybe when, you can safely ignore a certain case of the union, and instead you absolutely must provide or else, which is going to return some catch-all fallback thing, like for example -1, because returning -1 as error code is always the best practice you can do, right? So this is maybe when, pretty simple. And then in addition to when, you can also use map. So map, compared to when, does not provide you with the actual integer value. As you can see, we now cannot perform a plus operation on the integer operand. It says that add cannot be assigned to the parameter type num. That's because the value is actually the add class instance or the subtract instance respectively. So basically, while when destructures the contents of the case classes to be integers, in this case, they are destructured to be integers. Map does not destructure the contents, it just passes you the whole case class and lets it be sorted out by you manually. So let's rename these values to be case classes to be more meaningful. and then we can get the value from them like this. We can access also the copy with method. We can also map through the case class itself. We can convert it to string. We just have the fully blown case class, which is actually also a data class, because if you take a look at this add and subtract case classes are really the same thing as is the user class in the case of the single case union, you could call it, because data classes with freezed are really just unions which have just a single case, and they do not have a named factory. They have a factory without a name. So basically there is no difference between data classes and unions with freeze, but yeah, you get the point here. So let's get the value. We do not need to do anything else with this case class. We do not need to call copy with, for example. And having done all of this, we can still run this program without any issues. We're gonna see the output is 4, so still we have a valid program. And you may ask, when should I use when, which destructures things for me, and when should I use map? Well, for example, you can use map if you are using the block library and you would like to output different widgets from this map function. So in that case, you would probably want your states, your state classes, to arrive as actual classes and not just as destructors variables. But again, it's up to you. You are the one who decides what happens. Now onto a bonus before we leave this video. In the written tutorial, you have all of the VS Code snippets available. So let me show you right now what kind of VS Code snippets I have prepared. Because as you can see, creating data classes and unions can be quite time consuming. So because of that, I have prepared snippets for PTF, which automatically creates a part statement with the proper file name for the freeze package. There is also PTS, which creates the regular .g.dart part statement. And then we have F data class, so for example user2, and then we can specify int h right here. Cool. Then we have F union with one single case, so let's just call it some union. It's going to have one case hello, hello, it's going to be private. Cool. This should work. Oh, it doesn't. I need to fix the actual snippet. Cool. So I have just found an issue. When you get this snippet, it's actually going to be fixed. The hello name of the factory will be created at the proper place, so don't worry about that. And then we can also create another F union case. It will be called again some union. Hello, again at the incorrect place, pardon me. Or actually this one should be named goodbye. Private goodbye. And you can immediately see just how much keystrokes we saved. Of course, when this is actually going to be generated properly at the proper place, this name of the factory, you're going to save even more keystrokes than I did right now. So you can get all of these nice code snippets from the link in the video description from the written tutorial. So just get them, use them, and just put them into your user snippets by hitting F1 in VS Code, or Control Shift or Command Shift P in VS Code. Configure user snippets, Dart JSON, so just click here, and now you can just paste them all into this dart.json file, and you are going to be good to go. So to go through this tutorial at your own pace once again, to get all of the snippets and all of that, get all of the code, check out the written tutorial available from the link in the description, and be sure to show some support to Rémi by giving this package a like on Pub and a star on GitHub. It already has a bunch of stars and likes because, you know, it's Rémi Rousselet. So if he releases something, you just gotta like it, right? If you are a proper Flutter developer. But still, show him some support, like and star this package, because we now finally have a data and sealed class solution which does not compromise on anything, and that is a nice thing to see. And if you are serious about becoming a great Flutter developer who can build real apps for clients or at a job, go to flutter.education. A link is also in the video description to get the top curated Flutter news and resources aimed at improving your app development career. Over there you can also subscribe to my mailing list to get the best Flutter resources delivered weekly right into your inbox. And if you don't want to miss more tutorials like this, also more in-depth tutorials about programming paradigms and how to build really complex apps production grade, be sure to subscribe to this channel and also join the notification squad by hitting the bell button to make sure you grow your Flutter skills, because here on ResoCoder, I am determined to provide you with the best tutorials and resources so that you will become an in-demand Flutter developer. If this video helped you with understanding data classes, sealed classes, and also the freeze package, give this video a like and also share it with other developers who are surely going to find it beneficial too. If you have anything to say, leave a comment down below, and see you in the next video.